Hello and happy Friday and good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Breakfast with Boom. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And ladies and gentlemen, we have an outstanding show. We have a special guest, tons and tons of topics to get into. It's what a great way to end your week. And obviously, we are so happy that you are here. Really quick. This upcoming Monday, because obviously you guys and gals know that I work on these shows on a daily basis and usually 2 and 3 days ahead of the actual show because you want to make sure that it's fun and have great guests, great conversation. Well, we don't have just one great guest, folks, for Monday. We actually have two. First one is Ham Solo, who is going to be joining us, making his debut on this show or on my shows. We also have Ecstasies, the very amazing Spanish YouTuber who has exploded on the scene. We've been talking and trying to get our schedules correlated, and yes, we're gonna have two special guests on Monday. We have a lot to get into. Like I said, I cannot wait for that particular show. But we're here today with a very special guest, all the way from across the world, joining us today. Risk it for the biscuit, brother. You not only are you doing this show, but you got your show this evening with Infinite Umbra and the crew. Welcome. Good morning, and how you feeling?
Yeah, feeling good. It's nighttime for me, a little bit late for me, but that's tomorrow, so I'll get to sleep before the show while you guys are all going about your day. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that show. I'm looking forward to this show. This should be a good one. There's a lot going on. Lina Khan sat in front of Congress this week, and she got raked over the coals. It was good to see. Really good to see, but I guess we're going to get into that a little bit later. So thanks for having me on, Boom. Really appreciate it. And I'm sorry I missed the last week's one. I have had my time zones all over the place since I started work. So I'm just trying to settle into my job, settle into continuing to do this stuff because I love doing this. So yeah, it's going to be a great show. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you obviously being here today, and no hard feelings about the last time. Listen, it's that's life, brother. Listen, the fact that you're here, we truly appreciate it, and we're gonna have a great conversation because we are gonna break down what happened again because everyone here didn't get a chance to kind of give their opinions on what happened at Congress for Lina Khan. But the reason why I wanted to continue to talk about it is this open-ended op that came out of the Wall Street Journal, folks. If I say that Lina Khan's unreal, ideologies are hurting, potential U.S., businesses. You say, well, what the hell do you know, Boom? Like, what are you're just reading verbatim from the thing. You don't really know, and you'd be right to say so. I read the news like everyone else. I give you my opinion, and whether you like it or you don't, or you stay to listen or you don't, that's entirely up to you. When the Wall Street Journal, which is a newspaper that has been around for decades, goes out of their way, and the person writing this open op is approved to have this make print, it makes you wonder what is really going on at the FTC. I think that this is, we're not going to get into anything outside of what it means for the FTC and the way they've been behaving. Outside of what it means for Xbox and ABK, because really we're not a political channel. We talk about video games, but we'll get into that momentarily. Web Dave, good morning, brother. How the heck are you, man? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited to be here today. A big fan of Risk It for the Biscuit. I love it, man. I'm so glad that you're here, dude. And I know me and Fuzzy have got a whole lot of comments to make about today's topics. Let's get it.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have fun with it. We have a smaller story that we're going to open up with. One that's it's funny, it's interesting. But Fuzzy Belvedere, good morning, brother. How are you feeling?
Good morning. Glad to be here with you guys. Man, oh man. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting show. Lina Khan just we'll get into it, but man,
she keeps stepping in it. I'll tell you that. No doubt about it. But folks, I want to open up with a story that made the rounds yesterday. I didn't see many people talking about it. I certainly didn't see many of the press, the gaming media covering it, because when one does it, it seems to be okay, but when the other does it, it's you know it's a detriment to gaming. Gaming is going to die, and I'm talking about the quiet and very, very quiet acquisition of Firework Studios by PlayStation. This was put out 20 hours ago. PlayStation just did a post, just a Twitter post. Great news. Fireworks Studios is joining PlayStation Studios family. Learn more about this talented team and their plan to connect players in new and innovative ways in their ambitious upcoming multiplayer game. So of course, the question of organic growth risk it comes into play, because we've heard Colin Moriarty get out there and he's been beating his drum about how PlayStation good, organic. They work with studios. They purchase them. Thumbs up. And then we've heard his rhetoric, which that's all you can call it. Because like I said, I like Colin, but sometimes he really goes, like a little bit too far. And in some of his recent stuff, he's really gone out of his way. He even suggests why would Microsoft buy Ninja Theory? What was the point of that? Which is just ridiculous. And like I said, I like Colin. I still listen to his stuff, but sometimes I got to turn the dial off because it's too much even for me. Obviously, I want to risk it before I get your opinion on this. Benji Sales, which everyone knows, and Benji's what a great dude. He is a community icon, in my opinion. Someone you should be following on Twitter. You definitely should be subscribed to his channel. I love Benji Sales. I've had the pleasure of working with him a few times on some of my shows. He put out a tweet right after this, and it really does sum up a picture as to what PlayStation is doing. He says this, Risk It, confirmed PlayStation Live Service multiplayer games in active development. Naughty Dog is obviously working on The Last of Us multiplayer, which I would imagine when it comes out is going to be amazing. I wasn't the biggest Faction fan, but I can say that Factions was monstrous on the PlayStation. Factions 1 for The Last of Us 1. Everyone has been asking and waiting for it since it was supposed to launch with The Last of Us 2 a few years ago. It's Naughty Dog, folks. It's probably going to be really good, and it's probably going to look even better. So they're working on that. That's going to be a big deal. I just don't know which way they're going to go. Is it going to be free to play with microtransactions, or is it going to be very Sony-esque and they're going to be like, hey, $70 and microtransactions? We don't know, because there has been really much talk about it. Firework Studios, which they just purchased, apparently is working on a AAA PlayStation 5/PC game for their service. Bungie is also working on a new IP, though I don't know if that's going to shift to PlayStation exclusive, because if you remember when Bungie signed the deal with Sony to be acquired, one of the caveats to that deal was that they were going to operate independently, and all of their games were going to be multi-plat. That's what they said. I don't know if that's going to continue. We will see in time. Deviation Games is working on a new IP. As an exclusive. PlayStation London Studios, who has ridiculous talent, is working on an online fantasy combat. And Jade Raymond's studio, Haven Studios, which was acquired last year. And I love Jade. I think she's of unbelievable talent. And the fact that she's working with PlayStation exclusively is good for PlayStation. Her and her team is working on a new AAA, new IP that is, a gas game, as the kids call it. Risk It. Again, PlayStation is going to continue to acquire studios. That's what they do. Some are big, like Bungie. Some are small, like Firework Studios. But I find it funny that you see a lot of people. No names are mentioned on this show. We don't do that. That people are cheering this on, which you should if you're a PlayStation fan. But I find it hilarious how it's almost accepted for Sony to do certain things like acquire studios, but when Microsoft does it, it's somehow Microsoft is hurting the industry. They're putting up these walls. And I disagree with that. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I don't like Colin. Just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm not a big fan of the guy. He's an arrogant, fake pundit in my view.
And who's this?
Colin.
Oh yes, yeah, he's definitely a pundit for sure. Yeah,
yeah, not a very yeah. Look, he's not impartial. He's obviously biased. But I mean, we obviously have our biases as well. But I'm having this conversation online actually at like just before the show, with a few back and forths on Twitter as I do, and it does seem to be what I would call the PlayStation community having amnesia. And if they seem to forget that when PlayStation came into the up against Nintendo, the first thing they did was buy the studio that was making the biggest game at the time, was the biggest game at the time, which was Lemmings. I think it was called Psychotonic Studio. They never did anything with it, but that was the first acquisition they made, and they've continued to make acquisition after acquisition after acquisition. I believe of their big AAA studios that they have built from the ground up, there's one that actually makes AAA games that we would all everyone would know, which is obviously God of War, Santa Monica Studio.
Right, well, that's internal. Studio. That's an internal studio. Everything else they purchased, correct?
Everything else has been purchased. I believe there's 4 studios there's 3 that are basically support studios that they built themselves, and 1 AAA studio producing games that that we get today. But everything else has been bought. You're talking Naughty Dog. You're talking
Insomniac Games is another one that was purchased.
But these are no more organic or less organic than any other purchase in the industry. I mean, if we're talking organic, Bethesda is an extremely organic purchase for Microsoft. They've been working closely together for years. When they initially came up with the idea for the original Xbox, the OG, they took it to Bethesda. They're across the road to see if they wanted, what they could do with it. Bethesda were happy to put their game Elder Scrolls on it. It was on Xbox first. Like, that's a very organic purchase if you want to go that route. There's no such thing as an organic purchase. Like, anything you bring from the outside is by definition not organic. It's not. It's a purchase. And look, it's no different. It's literally no different. It's just the only problem I think that these guys have with it is COD, the size of the purchase, the quality of the IPs, that Microsoft is getting. I think bothers them, and they've got to come up with a reason to justify it in their head whether they don't like it because they have bias. I mean, I didn't appreciate. I wasn't happy when they bought Insomniac, but I didn't make up weird narratives to sort of fit my unhappiness. That's just a really odd thing to do.
It's funny. I was one of the first people to congratulate Sony on that when it was announced. I was very excited. First of all, I'm a huge Insomniac fan. I think what Ted Price and the team does over there it's brilliant work. And the first thing that I said is, well, of course Sony purchased them. That makes a whole mess of sense because they've only made 1 game or 2 games. One was a third party game that didn't do well for them, but they only made really 1 exclusive for Xbox. They've always worked with PlayStation, so that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, it does make. But I mean, at the time, you can understand that I was a pure Xbox. At the time, I just couldn't afford to have 2 consoles. So for me, it was a loss. So I understand the loss. And then when they announced Spider-Man, I was like, dude, that's a loss. If you're a 1 platform owner, then you do feel like you're losing something. So I understand why these guys run around and try to defend, that PlayStation's not doing it, and when they do it, it's okay, because that's their platform. It's okay for me because I have the platform. But look, to me personally, and I've had this conversation with a few people, and it might be an unpopular opinion, but I am not for consolidation at all. I don't like the industry gobbling up all these studios, to be honest. I mean, other studios do spring up, but say you get yourself to a point with Microsoft and they take on 2K. Well, at that point, they're probably going to be bigger than PlayStation. What I would like to see in the industry is both of them having an even playing field, forcing competition, because that's what it will do. It will force competition. It can't be denied. When you have two competitors that are the same size, that are bringing in the same amount of customers, that are competing for your dollar, that creates competition in the market. But when you have a situation that we have now with PlayStation, we can see what's happened. We can see that they've raised the price of games. We can see that they've raised the price of their consoles. We can see that they do anti-competitive practices like pay studios to not put things on the other platforms. You can see that they squeeze developers for their dollar because they are the biggest platform. And if you want to make money, you got to be on that platform, right? So all these things are just bad for the industry. And I don't want to see anything bad for the industry. I do look at the industry as a whole. I don't look at. I'd love more games in Game Pass, and if they acquired 2K, that'd be great. If they acquired Warner Brothers, that'd be great. But at the end of the day, I look long term into the future and think, okay, yeah, sure. Like if Microsoft becomes the PlayStation, is the head of the industry. Then what happens in the future when Phil leaves? What happens, down the line? We don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. They could return to the Microsoft of the 90s. I doubt that.
Hopefully not. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. There's a lot. I will say this: the one thing that we don't like, and I certainly don't like, is uncertainty. Risk it, and I think you're onto something.
Yeah, and and the only way to make sure that these two companies don't get too big for their boots, so to speak, is to ensure that they have a competitor that can match them every step of the way.
Indeed.
And this is the only reason why I'm for the ABK deal, because it evens out this playing field. And look, some of these narratives are just ridiculous, and it really will even the playing field, I think. And I think it will give Microsoft the best chance for success, and it will give Sony, it'll put Sony on notice, and they will have to compete. So we hopefully won't see going forward into this generation and into the next, any of these practices that they've been pulling off and getting away with scot-free, mind you, this generation.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here ever and suggest that Sony has not earned the flowers that they get from the community. They have a very great, again, depending on who you ask, whether you like to play. I think the PlayStation 5 is a fantastic console. I think the DualSense is innovation that I quite enjoy when I use it. I do really like PlayStation's first party games because for someone like myself who's a little older, who likes single player, story driven, adult contact with graphics. I mean, perfect example of graphics is look at the Horizon DLC. Now you put that on, and there are a lot of people, like even Joe, Mr. Badbit, who's a good friend of this community, was like, you forget how amazing Horizon actually looks, right? Like, you talk about it and you're like, wow, this game is a stunner. So they are in a position, number one position by leaps and bounds for a lot of reasons. Now, some of the reasons I don't like. Some of obviously you made mention of they bully around small developers, publishers, and they get away with it. They haven't been a weird PlayStation in a long time. When I say weird, I'm talking about games like Resistance, games like Twisted Metal, things of that nature. That I'd love to see come back to PlayStation. I think a fantastic push against Call of Duty being known as the PlayStation being known for the PlayStation platform is to return to COD. I mean, a return to SOCOM. Where is a new SOCOM? I don't understand. Oh, you see, I just dropped my Titan on that other Titan. That was pretty dope. That doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's pretty dope, and I'm glad that I recorded that. But look
at XDefiant. So I mean, we hear this. If we lose COD, Microsoft could foreclose on PlayStation. It's just ridiculousness. But I mean, there's no. I mean, they've already got 10 gas games. This is always has been about delaying this deal. I don't think they ever really believed, especially with the arguments that they've been bringing. If they wanted to stop this deal, they should have brought better arguments. I mean, but I think it's always been about delaying this deal so they can get these gas games out the door. Because I mean, look at XDefiant. XDefiant was received very badly for good reason. It was a mishmash of all their IPs thrown together with Tom Clancy's name slapped on it.
Yeah.
They've since taken the Tom Clancy's name off. It's been pretty successful. There is room in the industry for another arena shooter in the style of COD. We've seen it.
Yeah. There is.
So this ridiculousness that they're saying that they're going to be foreclosed on if they lose COD is just absurd. Absolutely absurd. I don't think they believe it, and I don't think anyone else should believe it.
Now, shout out to Mr. Xbox in the chat. He says SOCOM is trash. I disagree, brother. I don't know if you played it, if you're even old enough to have played it on the PlayStation 2. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. They have better IP, sure, but SOCOM is legendary in PlayStation Nation. I'm sorry. I know I'm not the only one asking for a new SOCOM. So thanks for being here, dude. But I 1,000% disagree. Dave, I want to get your hot take on this because again, there are a lot of folks in here saying, wait, just a second, Boom. ABK is there's no comparison, ABK versus the studio that they added yesterday. And you are correct in saying so. This studio probably cost them a couple of $100,000 versus $70 billion. It is two ends of the spectrum. But we cannot discount, guys, that Sony in the last 24 months, give or take, now this is like the 9th studio they have acquired that includes Bungie, folks. I mean, again, it does not equate the same money. And they're specifically targeting these studios for certain things that they saw that they liked. They're working with some of these studios. Nixus, for instance, makes perfect sense, right? They need to bring their games to PC. I will say this. They're still... The fact that they're not doing day-and-date releases is still a problem, in my opinion. Maybe not, bringing it to the service, but they should definitely bring their games day and date to PC. They should. That's why they acquired Nixus. What are your thoughts, Dave, on this? Again, smaller purchase for sure. It makes sense. They're working on a new IP that Sony liked that falls into their. We need to have these games as a service. They want to add these games because they're going to lose a significant amount of money on PlayStation when Call of Duty ultimately the marketing rights go back to Microsoft. Again, not a big purchase, but good for one, bad for the other. That's really the story here. Talk about it.
Yeah, it's I believe the team was like some former Destiny guys that worked on Destiny, and then of course, Sony's laid off a bunch of people from the Destiny team, and then they make this purchase all within the same week. That's kind of weird, but I obviously they need more help. They need more people there to get these gas games out, and it's good on them. But boy, these things got done and made announcements pretty quick. I know it's not the same amount of purchase price, but man, it seems like Sony can just pew pew pew, just take them out, whatever they need. If they can afford them, they can get them, and nobody seems to push back at all or has the ability to push back. So I don't know. I just I mean, I see why they're doing it, and obviously they're going to need the help, to get these games off the ground, and that's kind of the way you do it, not quote unquote organically. It's what you do. If you have a problem, you solve it by fixing it. Whether it's put a patch, bring in a team that can work and has experience with it, that's what you do. That's why Microsoft is buying these big purchases, because they have a need for exclusives. They had a need for games on their platform and for Game Pass. So they went out and they bought them. Yeah. And the deal's going through, folks. Hopefully next week we'll have most of it behind us. But
next week, Dave, is going to be pretty big. We're going to get the information from the CMA that they've approved the deal with no concessions towards Sony. And it's gonna be a lot to get into, Dave. But anything else you'd like to add to the fact that Sony it seems to be like Sony can't do wrong even when they do wrong.
Well, no, and it's I believe that the smaller purchase under the radar, if if Microsoft after this ABK deal is done makes some small purchases like this, I don't think there'll be any pushback. And we know that you personally have talked about it, and I've talked about it, that there's several different teams that they work with now that they should acquire so that they don't lose those people that work on these great games. Asobo, for example, and a bunch of others that they work with.
Certain Affinity it jumps right off the right off the page for me personally.
Exactly, and that would be great for them. But let's hope it's an even playing field as far as well, if it's good for Sony, then it should be good for Microsoft to do the same thing. But now,
it's interesting.
Go ahead.
It's interesting timing too, right? When you think about this, is this Sony? And they likely do. Do you think they know something that we don't? Because you wouldn't think that during this ABK deal going down, we're right at the end of it. We've obviously got all this stuff coming up next week. Do you think this is them waving the white flag a little bit?
Maybe.
I mean, it could very well be. I mean, listen, we know for a fact that Jim Ryan has a significant amount of connections in that region of the world. I mean, but that is where he is from. We know that that he was, the minute this deal was announced, he was flying to Brussels on a regular basis to meet with regulators to say, hey, you got to stop this deal. So I'm sure that the corporations that are involved in this, meaning Microsoft being the purchaser and PlayStation or Sony being the aggressor to stop it, have the inside knowledge of what is ultimately going to go down. I mean, we all know, due to the documents that the CMA released publicly, that, hey, listen, we've taken Sony off the board. We the evidence proves that there's not going to be any market harm. And Jim Ryan actually, saying, "Oh, we're disappointed," or whatever. The terminology.
I believe he called him irrational
decision. Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is. It's going through. Like I said, Call of Duty outside of the single player doesn't mean really anything for me because I'm not a multiplayer COD. I don't play COD. I just don't. So it doesn't matter to me personally. I'm not a guy that you're going to get microtransactions monies from. What I'm excited about is the rumor that has been floating around that both Treyarch and Infinity Ward are working on a Mass Effect type open world first person space shooter. They're both working now. They didn't. I mean, folks, just go look it up. That's the rumor. I don't think they're working in tandem. From what I understand and what I remember reading, is that they're different IPs. That's what I'm excited for. I'm excited for Toys for Bob to potentially make a banjo game, or a kart game using the same engine of Crash, but just using Xbox characters. I've been banging that drum forever. Everyone knows that watches the show. Like, oh, here Boom's talking about his racer again. Listen, I like family games. I'm sorry, I'm a nerd. What can I tell you?
Exclusives.
Yeah. So I mean, that's it right there, Dave. It's the fact that these are going to be exclusives. I think that one of the things that's fascinating when you ultimately look at this deal is that Sony has always only complained about COD and nothing else, which is crazy that we now know that all they are going to get is COD. That's all that's going to be on there. But all of the newer IPs are potentially new, developed titles are going to be exclusive to Xbox, which is what they need. They need that for the for the platform. They need it for Game Pass. But Fuzzy, let's get your hot take on this, dude. Again, this is not the biggest story of the world. I just find it odd that anytime Microsoft does something, it's frowned upon. It's considered industry ending. And Sony, quietly in the last 24 months, has acquired 9 studios.
Yeah.
And yes, they have worked with them. I don't consider that organic growth. I consider that they're a corporation acquiring studios to help build their empire or further build their empire. Why is there a disconnect? Because I know that the monies are different. I mean, we're not boobs here, folks. We understand 70 billion versus a couple of 100,000 or a few million. I get it. but there's something to be said about one being looked upon as the frowny face and one being looked upon as the real happy smiley face with hearts. I don't understand what's going on.
Well, much like Risket was saying earlier about the whole organic growth thing and it being like this misnomer out there, where if you look at the past, Microsoft working with Bethesda, that was an organic growth by their standards. But, even Activision Blizzard, like, let's not forget 360 time. They did have the marketing rights and they did have a lot of workings with Activision prior, and they still have some deals with Activision. So the organic growth thing is what a lot of the fanboys on Twitter like to pump their chest about. But in the grand scheme of things, Sony's working within their budget, and they're being smart about it. I mean, they don't have the hundreds of billions of dollars to draw from Sony. And in fact, I think they only have like $5 billion left.
It's actually $5.1 billion left for SIE, not the PlayStation, folks.
Yeah,
the entire Sony Interactive Entertainment has, and I say only like it's a drop in a hat. 5.1 billion until their next fiscal year. And that is going to be used for investments in the company, not just PlayStation.
Now, we say only, like you said, but for Microsoft, that's couch cushion money. So for the most part, Sony being, the strategists that they are, they're taking players off the field. I mean, it's almost a said and done deal when it comes to ABK passing within the next few weeks. In fact, I think it winds up being like this big announcement that, their or Xbox's showcase or the E3 week, if you would like to call it that. But I think they're looking at these smaller studios that can help them with this whole games as a service deal. And that's kind of what this team was working on already. So why not just, lock that down? Because push come to shove, after ABK, Microsoft might say, well, instead of having all of the current Activision studios working in the, like Kay Asante would say, the Call of Duty, why not pick up a few support studios? And these guys might be a target. So if Sony could pull them off the table and make sure that they lock things down for their upcoming games, then so be it. But it's funny how in the gaming media, there's this difference in how things are looked upon. Like we talk about layoffs at Microsoft, but there's barely a peep about the layoffs at Bungie. We talk about acquisitions when it comes to Microsoft, and it's like bad for gaming. But how many studios was it? Like 9 in the past 2 years.
I would say it's around 9 of them in the last 24 months, give or take. I could be off by a studio or a month count, but I'm pretty sure that it's been about 9.
Yeah, but I think in the grand scheme of things, we need to kind of prepare for more of the FUD to be unleashed by the gaming media on Xbox once this ABK deal clears. Like I totally expect, and I've been saying this probably for a while, they'll rehash those stories of who has batteries in a controller in 2023 and the potato Series S, and they'll find something else. Like they want to do something about this whole Twitter deal, but let's see how long Sony wants to pay that API.
I would imagine in the coming days they're going to back out too, because the API amount that they want people to I that's something else. Again, we'll talk about it when more information comes forward on Monday's show. Like I was trying to share a clip of Ghostwire Tokyo, which I'm 22 hours in. Wow, what a game that nobody's talking about. And I got Dead Island 2 that just downloaded. I didn't fly out to New Zealand yesterday. I was too tired, so I figured I would just
patch.
So it continues, Fuzzy.
No, but overall, I think it's just a sign of how the media, views both companies. Like they still see Microsoft in those 1990 glasses where Bill Gates was at the head of the ship and, get ready to throw people out the window or have people fight in the office space over who gets the green light on a project. So we'll see how things pan out. But in the grand scheme of things, Sony's working within their budget, being smart about it, and hopefully Xbox does the same after ABK and picks up like some of the studios you guys mentioned, like Asobo and certain Affinity, or even ones like was
IO Interactive would be a good
IO
one.
Crystal
Yeah.
Dynamics, because that
Yes.
considering they might be up for a flip price of whatever. What do you call them once they get for the sale of it, because they already sold off the licensing stuff, so we'll see how it works. But
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, again, folks, this is my heart is coming forward live on the air. For me, the two studios that got away that I really, really wish would become Xbox or Microsoft first party was Crystal Dynamics for a multitude of reasons. And Eidos Montreal. They're both those two studios, which are owned by Embracer Group, are currently working on two monster IPs, exclusive IPs for Xbox, in Fable and Perfect Dark, respectively. So I'd love to see them.
And also Tomb Raider as well, which is an IP I would love to see. I would
Dude.
love to see that, and the salt that day would rain from the heavens. I would love that.
I said this personally. That I mean, the ABK deal is the reason why they didn't acquire these studios and all that IP. There's no doubt that if Microsoft wasn't in litigation and they had, they were able to, they would have purchased those. Just imagine if Tomb Raider being first party IP. That's legendary IP. Like that's like one of those once in a lifetime things. Like the Activision Blizzard King deal is once in a lifetime thing. Remember, Bobby Kotick went to Microsoft. They didn't go to him. They were very surprised that he came to them, and they were like, "Yeah, we have heard numerous times that there were deals in place for acquisitions and announcements that had to be pushed, that had to be postponed because of the ABK deal." I believe the Crystal Dynamics one could have been one of those tragedies that they didn't get. But listen, it's fine.
And you never know. You never know. There might be a back pocket deal, which is illegal, but there might have been a back pocket deal with Square, with Embracer Group, and these companies do talk. I doubt it. I highly doubt it, but it's a possibility. But one thing I just wanted to sort of add here before you do move on, Boom, is that for a lot of people, and this does come up a lot for me, and I have a sort of a go-to cut and paste that I like to cut and paste when people talk about what organic growth is and what inorganic growth is. There's no such thing as an organic acquisition. That is
right
against the very definition of an acquisition. So this is the definition. In general, growth is considered either organic or inorganic. Organic growth comes from expanding your organization's output and by engaging in internal activities that increase revenue. That is organic growth. Inorganic growth comes from mergers, acquisitions, and joint ventures. That's that is the definition. So when we hear about this organic, acquisitions and mergers, there's no such thing. All of these companies, Insomniac, Bend, I don't believe Naughty Dog. No, Naughty Dog was one that did. There's only a couple of studios that Sony have acquired that haven't had a relationship with Microsoft. And every studio that Microsoft has acquired and is acquiring has also had a relationship with those studios. They don't acquire studios unless they have had a relationship and know it's going to be a good fit. We've heard Phil Spencer say that many, many, many times. So there's no difference between what PlayStation does when it comes to mergers and acquisitions than when it comes to Microsoft. There's absolutely no difference. It's a ridiculous narrative, and it's one that you see in the media, and it's all based around, when we get into this ABK, so it's all based around that PlayStation is the market leader, and so they have sway on the media, they have sway on developers, they have sway on their masses of fans, so they have sway on social media. It's just how it is at the minute, and hopefully this ABK deal will help to resolve some of it. I think it's going to be a much better market and a much better industry going forward for it.
I agree. I think it is going to be a better market. And like I said, I think ultimately when you see as many studios, which I believe it's upwards of 8 studios, risk it, that have converged to bring out one Call of Duty, it's a bit much. I like the fact that Call of Duty potentially could go back to an every other year release, which is what they said. and let those studios create other things, and those other things are going to go into Game Pass. They are going to be Xbox exclusive, and that's what Microsoft needs. But listen, I want to go into the biggest news of yesterday. Besides Lina Khan, we're gonna talk about her shenanigans and how she was roasted once again. I mean, this is like over the charcoals roasted by the Wall Street Journal. Diablo 4 getting a third beta. Risk, I saw you talking about this. Folks, the FOMO has gotten Mr. Boomstick, because if you guys and gals remember, Mrs. Boom and I, who play these games together as a couple, did not really walk away too impressed with Diablo 4. We got up to level 8, both of us. She played the sorceress, or the sorcerer, I should say, and I took on the barbarian. We thought it was okay, but there were a lot of things that we didn't know we can do, like bring the camera closer and things of that nature. So I had pre-ordered the $100 digital edition, and I canceled it because, like, why should I spend this? And then, well, good marketing, folks. Blizzard had been putting out these shorts and these, of the barbarian, of the necromancer, of the sorcerer, the sorceress, and they were doing some gameplay stuff, and they had the camera way that Mrs. Boom and I like it, and I'm like, my God. Like, they got me. So what did I do after it was announced? I bought it again. So this time, I'm not canceling my pre-order, risk it. I'm in for the $100 edition. A lot of us hoping that it get the Game Pass. If it goes into Game Pass, maybe I cancel again. I don't know. But listen, risk it. This is a big deal. This is a big deal because let me pull up the notes here, because they're calling it something specific, which is pretty crazy. They're calling it Bungie. Blizzard is calling this next beta, which is going to happen on May 12th through the 14th. They're calling it, risk it, the server slammer beta. Basically, they're inviting everyone in at once to see how the servers are going to handle, because this is going to be, no doubt, folks, the biggest third-party release of 2023. Like I said, I know that somewhere in the chat, the Black Harry Potter, who I love, is probably like, boom, you've sold me out. I can't believe it. I'm not saying that my game of the year isn't going to be Hogwarts, because it's currently my game of the year. I love Hogwarts. And this Hogwarts is selling so good, but Diablo, if you just look at the social media buzz, risk it, this game has grabbed everyone. Like, when it remember, they said there was not going to be a third beta, and here we are, they're releasing it. But what's interesting, risk it, is what is going to be able to be played on this beta. Now I'm going to bring it up on my screen. This is the Diablo 4 server slam, May 12th through the 14th. This is what you're going to be able to do. All classes are going to be available: rogue, barbarian, sorcerer, necromancer, druid. You're going to be able to explore the first zone, called Fractured Peaks. You're going to be able to experience the story from the prologue all the way through Act 1. Anyone that reaches level 20 in the beta will get the beta wolf pack for rewards. They're going to get the battle the world boss Ashava. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And if you defeat Ashava at level 20, you're going to get the Cry of Ashava mount trophy. Brisket, I know you've been talking about this, brother. This is high on your list of excitement. Let's talk about it, brother. The third beta, shocking everybody.
Yeah, look, I don't even know. I think I found out on KY Bob's show. I was like, what? So I was not I played Diablo 2 back in the day, so we're obviously older guys. I played that to death. That was great. came back to 3. I think when 3 released on the 360, played that. Wasn't a fan. Didn't like it. I just couldn't get into it. I don't know why. Very much like the way that you felt about Diablo 4. And I think I don't know if you remember, but I messaged you and said, man, I think you got to pick a different class. I think that's the problem. So going into this one, I was like, because I would normally go barbarian or paladin. I don't know what the class they call it, but like the holy guy with the shield. And I would normally do that. That would be my thing. But this time, I do something different. So I went with the sorcerer. I had an absolute blast, man. I've got it all the way to level 20 already. I literally did not stop playing. I didn't play anything else. I put down Harry Potter. I think I was in the middle of that. Haven't been back to it since. Put down Harry Potter, and I played that flat out, man. This is the game. It has that Elden Ring smell, I think, all over it. It's going to be that game that the community just constantly talks about. I think for the next 6 months, I think it's going to be huge. And we know what they're like with DLC. They always support their games as well. And if that game lands in Game Pass, like, can you imagine the subscribers it'll bring?
Dude, I'm going to throw something out there to you, Risk It, okay? I'm not a marketing manager, folks. I'm just a knucklehead podcaster. I don't have a degree in marketing, but this is really common sense. Now, there's been several people on my panels that suggest that there are 2 shows for June. There's an ABK has been past show, and there's been one that's not, that they're still fighting this thing. In the first one, there is suggestions, Risk It, that Diablo gets dropped into Game Pass as the mic drop moment. Boom. But I think there is more to that. Now, we've all been asking, at least here in the UK, well, not here in the UK, here in the United States and in the UK, I'm not in the UK, folks, that when is the family plan releasing? When are we going to finally get the $5 a month for you and 4 other people in your family, your buddies, whoever, your friends and family, whoever? I think, Risk It, that they could be holding this close to the vest like this. And their mic drop moment is Diablo 4 in Xbox Game Pass. Get it for as low as $5 a month. And you will see subscription level madness, as if they're giving it away. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, look, I sort of hope so. I don't know if I definitely think they're going to drop the family pass at the show, 110%. I don't know if they can get the ink on this deal dry before the show. I just don't see that happening. We know Lina's going to fight it. It was very clear. We're going to get to the whole Congress thing later on, but it was very clear. She kept her cards held very close to the chest. She said a lot about facts, which weren't true. So I see her being the last roadblock that they're not going to get over before that time. But if they do, I think you're 100%. So if they can manage to get this deal, and maybe this push from Congress might push her to just go, you know what, I'm going to let this one go. And she should. And if they get it inked and they do that with Diablo, but then what if they come back and they go in the next 6 months, say in 4 months, World of Warcraft coming? Like, that will be absolutely massive. The subscriber count on that is humongous. Awesome. And then if they follow that up with what else have they got? What's the shooter? Come on. I never played the damn thing, but it's a hero shooter. Help me out, Dave. Overwatch, that's the one. Yeah. They drop Overwatch as well. Well, Overwatch is free to play, isn't it?
It is free. Oh, yeah, I believe it is free to play. Yeah.
They could always do like Game Pass perks or something like that to give you some of the skins and whatnot.
Absolutely, man. There's so many IPs within Activision Blizzard. If they drop Diablo, World of Warcraft, that's already boosting your subscriber count exponentially. Like, I don't know if you would get double. We get pretty close to double, at least another 10 million, I think, by the end of the year, and that's bringing them way past that 30 mil. So, yeah. But for me, Diablo 4, another beta that is just going to make my absolute week. You only get to play it for a couple of days, but that's like, to me, any chance I get to play it, and I'm hoping for a fourth as well. So fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah, I look. I'm really trying. I'm painting this beautiful portrait. It's unlikely anything I said is going to come true because I'm wrong. Like I said, at least once a day, twice on Sundays. But for Fantasyland, which is sometimes I live in, which I am the co-mayor of, by the way, of Speculation Town with, and I'm co-mayors with Pong Soul, who's probably laughing, and Mav Fun Speculation. We're all co-mayors of Speculation Town. That would be the ultimate mic drop and industry. It's one of those moments, if it comes to fruition, and a lot has to happen for that to transpire. I understand that. I understand this is Fantasyland talk, but to be honest, that's one of those game industry grabbing moments that is going to be talked about forever. Like, do you remember when Sony said this is how you share games? Yeah, that literally won a generation for them, right? Considering the zeitgeist, which Microsoft or Xbox, they don't really, they miss more than they hit with the zeitgeist. This game, Diablo 4, is going to be the biggest third-party game for 2023. By leaps and bounds. Like I said, just read the room, folks. People that aren't or haven't played Diablo in decades are buying consoles to play this. I know that for a fact because I have a few friends that told me so. I don't know. Like I said, it sounds interesting. It would be a great kickoff or closing on a show that is going to be amazing. We're going to get into what Tim Dog out there doing what Tim Dog does. Made a comment the other day, which we're going to be talking about what he expects. And Tim Dog knows. He walks the walk and he talks the talk. Tim knows his stuff about what should be at the show. We're going to talk about that on Monday. But before I bring Dave in, I got to catch up on the Super Chat. It's been quite a few of them. First of all, the first two of the day comes from our very good brother who is recovering from spinal fusion surgery. I know that all too well. That is our brother, Shooter 2853. He's been he's been needing the support of the community, and apparently, based on what he said, the community has responded in kind because he is an amazing person, served his country. Of course, salute to you. He says this after dropping at a ridiculous $20 super chat. Says, "Hey, Boom, Mrs. Boom, I thank you both for the wonderful tweet. Hey, Web Day, Fuzzy, and who is this Risk It fella? Seriously, I have been overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and concern for me over the last week or two, and it's well deserved, brother. You are a major positive aspect of the community, and all of us cannot thank you enough for the outstanding support." He drops a second $5 super chat and says, I continue. I can say thank you from the bottom of my heart. So, well, thank you, brother, for being here as always. Dreadful Sean drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, with Sony's market share lead, if they move their marketing to X-Deviant or X-Defiant, I should say, it could very well take over COD. It is all about getting eyes on the product and people talking about it. I mean, it could if they decide to do some marketing thing with Ubisoft. I think that's a fantastic idea. Raiden Blade, just a very generous £5 super chat and says, question, is Sony not a monopoly just short of by 2%? Or if so, how can Sony be allowed to purchase anything? Therefore, more acquisitions incoming for Xbox. Look, Sony has been dominant for decades. They have ruled the roost with IP, with innovation on their consoles. They're where they are because they spent the money to get there. Now, in the process of making great consoles and having amazing first party IP, they have also done some dirty stuff, folks. Now it's business, so is it really dirty? They're just spending more money. They have locked down marketing on just about every zeitgeist title you can imagine. Marvel, Harry Potter, The Wizarding World. Just go up the line. Street Fighter. I mean, right now you can play on PlayStation. Next week you can play on Xbox. That's marketing. We heard about this last year, maybe even the beginning of the year, that Sony had gone to every major publisher and were going to push the pedal on the metal of marketing everything that they can get their hands on. That's just how they do their business, and it's working. It's working. So I don't know. I personally think that you're gonna see this continue, but I also think that you're going to see almost immediately, folks. Once this deal, the ink is dry, I think that the first week of 2024, they're gonna announce another monster acquisition. Now, is that going to be Square? Is that going to be Bandai Namco? Is it going to be Capcom? Is it going to be Sega? I think that they push into Japan for next year. But I think their smaller studios that they're working with now come by the end of the year, if this deal is done in the next couple of months. I think you're going to start to see them start to snatch up smaller developers and the big publisher next year. Again, that's just my opinion. DJ Birdo, DOS, what's going on, brother? How the heck are you? He drops very generous $5 super chat and says, how's it going? Well, it's going great that you're here, brother. Thank you for the generosity. Web Dave, let's get your hot take on this. Yeah. Where do you kind of sit for Diablo? First of all, like I said, this is a shock. This came out of nowhere. It's funny because even the developers had said, when people asked, like a lot of people like Risk It, like all people played for the 2 days that the game was available in the beta was Diablo 4. And they were asked straight out, are we going to get another one? They said, nah, we're just not. And they surprised everyone yesterday, brother. And it's a really big deal. Smart marketing, brother. Just incredible marketing. Well, let's get your hot take on it.
Yeah, I agree. It is smart marketing. It is the way to get their product out there, and the beta clearly, and and to do quote unquote the stress test, to put it out there and let them just absolutely kill the servers. If things do crash, something happens, or they have to put a patch in real quick, or they need to bring some more servers online, that's the point. They'll be like, hey, cool. Because they'd rather have it happen now than when the game releases and they have the onslaught. I'm not saying that still won't happen first day or so when everybody's trying to download it, but yeah. So hopefully you have get it on your Xbox where you get to download it ahead of time. Just saying. But it's an awesome game. It's fantastic. I can hardly wait to play. I don't know who I'm gonna actually what character I'm gonna choose. The actual. I downloaded the beta the first time, and it took so long to download that I just didn't. I had other things I had to take care of, family and stuff, so I just didn't get a chance to play it. Then I finally, logged in the second time, and it was like cool, but I've only got like an hour, and it was like, then I had to go. But this next one coming up, I'm gonna be probably on vacation off. I will be putting it to the test, as it were, and having a lot of fun with friends and family that play too. So looking forward to it for sure. It's big, it's smart, because like you said, you had so many people that were like, even like Jez Coordinate were like, oh my gosh, I'm just having withdrawals from it right now. Well, this will get him in a frenzy again too, and get him pushing it and promoting it, and that's all good things for them. That's some free marketing right there, all the way across the board. Smart move.
No, it's actually super smart, Dave, because the game is coming out June 6th, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
This beta is mid-May, the 12th through the 14th. So your withdrawal will only have to equate for about 2.5 weeks, and then you're right back at it. I love this. Again, Mrs. Boom and I are going to give it another shot.
That's
like I
amazing. I'm
said,
glad you are.
we have to because this is our type of game. So we're gonna figure it out. Like I said, I still think some of the stuff is a little messy, especially with like where you put your gear on. It's a little much, but we'll figure it out. We love these types of games, and I want to play it. But Fuzzy, let's get your hot take on this. Shocker yesterday. There was actually a lot of information. Some Division 2 stuff came out.
Oh yeah.
Which I know you're excited about. Some of the stuff for the mobile aspect I could care less about. The other one where it's like a survival. My brother Neo Mental's gonna eat that up for me. I could care less. I'm more of like I want to get the Resident Evil stuff. I want to get the Splinter Cell stuff, so I'll probably be playing that. But I want to get your hot take on this news that came out of nowhere. Again, the beta shocked a lot of people. They are allowing for a significant amount of eyes on the prologue on the first chapter. I think that's great. You're going to have some leftover stuff that's going to carry over to your main character or characters because you played the beta to level 20. This is exciting, man. This took the world by storm. And I'm super stoked. Anyone that is excited for this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like, this is going to be one of my first Diablos. So I played the second beta when it was the open beta. I didn't pre-order it prior, but after the open beta, I pre-ordered it. And this kind of surprise is a pleasant one for the most part. But I applaud Blizzard for the fact that they're looking at pushing the servers. Like, a lot of times these multiplayer games, release day, it's like, oh, I can't connect. Oh, I'm in a queue. And, these past few times, it looks like the queues after the first day, they've gotten it under control. And I think this will help for actual launch day, even though there's like the 4 days early or something like that deal. I think they're trying to mitigate a lot of that traffic that they're going to wind up getting and make it so it's like a seamless or flawless, launch. So applaud to them, but man, this is going to be some time sink time. Like, I had just kind of given up on the division prior to the division day the other day because there were so many bugs and stuff that were broken, although they fixed that earlier in the week. One of my favorite builds was Seeker Mine that comes back in 3 seconds. I now have it back because they fixed the Caesar's Guard vest, but the mobile game, it does have one positive, well, a couple of positive aspects. One of them being which it's based off of like the Division 1. It's like before the first, or it's like the first wave.
It's supposed to be in between 1 and 2, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing that I hope that they learn from the mobile game that they carry over to possibly a Division 3 or somehow incorporated into Division 2 is the persistent open world. Like, like if you're in the what I used to call like the light zone, the big open world map, you can usually only be there with 4 other players until you go to like the safe house or your base of operations. Then there's certain areas where it's like a hub of all the players that are in your instance. But in the mobile game, you'll see other agents roaming the light zone area. So I'm hoping at some point they do kind of like what Destiny does, where you can have public events and just random players that may not be in your squad.
I would love that, dude. Yeah. I love the public events in Destiny. Absolutely love them, dude.
Yeah. So if they can figure out a way to incorporate that into a Division 3 or somehow spin that into Division 2 with what they're learning from the mobile game, that would be awesome. But a lot of that content, looking forward to Heartland. Yeah, I'm not the biggest PvP person, but PvEVP or PvE or however you want to call it.
Yeah,
it looks like it's going to be kind of interesting. So I'll give it a try. But if as long as people aren't out there solely to grief, we'll see how that pans out. But Diablo, I'm waiting to see how that PvP works, because I know there are going to be certain instances where they'll open up in certain areas of the map, and I'm wondering if they might let us test that out. That would be nice if they let us test that out in this beta here. But it was so much fun the last one. The world boss or the whatever that thing was where I got like smacked by his tail twice and died instantly. Yeah, I think I can come up with a little bit better build or something like that now. But man, looking forward to when they do this beta test again.
Yeah, real quick before we move on to the Lina Khan thing, I do want to say, the division, it hasn't been the greatest. I love Division 1 more than I love 2.
Yeah.
But I quite enjoy 2. I hope that at some point we hear about a 3, and I like your idea of the uh, other other community members coming in for a public event.
Yeah.
No one did it better than Bungie. Those public events were amazing, and they usually levied some really good loot. I love the fact that people just jumped in to help. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I hopefully that is something that they incorporate into 3 for sure. But let's see. Royal Boyle 78 in the chat. First of all, brother, welcome to the show. He says, would like to know opinions on Jeff Grubb's assessment. Now, what he is talking about is Jeff Grubb was on Reddit he wasn't on Reddit. He was on his show.
Right.
And Reddit posted it where he had some things to say about hearing from some internal chatter that Microsoft was disappointed with the sales of Hi-Fi Rush. We're not going to cover it today. We are covering it as the first story on Monday's Xbox lunch break special at 12 p.m. right here on Double Barrel Gaming. And real quick, folks, I see a ton of new names I've never seen before. Listen, I get scolded by Randall Thor all the time for not saying it enough. And he's right. I'm just happy to be doing this. So sometimes it just goes over my head and I forget because I'm excited to be talking about video games. My wife and I solely work on this channel. And obviously she's not on camera. She does behind the scenes stuff. We dedicate a significant amount of our lives to the channel. We do this 5 days a week. It is a lot of work. We love it, but it's a lot of work. And I don't really ask for super chats. If you want to donate, that's amazing. We turn those super chats into bettering the channel and also giving back. As you know, last year we gave over $3,000 worth of gift cards, and we're going to do that again this year. But with super chats and channel memberships, those help. But it's the more simpler things that I'm talking about, and that's subscribing to the channel. We hit 12K earlier this year, which is amazing. We've been stuck in neutral for the last couple of weeks. Gain 4, lose 6. Gain 6, lose 4. Not sure why. I think I'm one of the more positive dudes here. I give everyone the righteous smoke when they deserve it, including Microsoft. And the fact that we have built this channel on community first, honesty, integrity being the girders that holds up this Double Barrel Gaming, I ask that you consider subscribing. So if you're not subscribed already, folks, please consider subscribing and, more importantly, hitting the like button for the shows that we do, because they do help out more than you could possibly imagine. But to risk it, we're going to move on to the big topic of the show. Now, you talked about it on your intro. Lina Khan got roasted. There's no doubt about it. She got roasted by Congress, and rightfully so. She was double talking out of both sides of her mouth. She seemed arrogant. She seemed bothered to be there. I thought all of her answers for her questions were very samey, in my opinion. But I do want to bring up a post from Xbox Theory on Twitter. He posted a couple of videos of Lina Khan being asked some questions. One of which was during during the Congress questioning, and another one where she was, I guess, an invited guest to talk about how she sees fit running the FTC. And he says the facts by Lina Khan basically contradicts everything that she has said. And he added some context to that. The first point he says is she says the FTC doesn't need strong facts, Brisket, to move forward and challenge mergers and deals, which is ridiculous to even suggest someone in her position would say that publicly. You want to think that, Brisket, that's fine. To say this out for everyone to know is bonkers. Okay, we know that there were hundreds of senior staff members in the last 2 years, last 24 months under her tenure, have left, have resigned. We know that there's no representation from the Republican Party because both left. In their exit interviews, many said, Riskett, that she is a tyrant, that she is not using the rule of law, which is illegal. Her ideology is sound in regards to wanting to protect consumers from big corporations rolling over us and us not having a say. But the rule of law is the rule of law. The second thing he says that she said in the video was, we always make our own judgment based on law and facts, which contradicts what she said in the first paragraph, that the FTC doesn't need strong facts to move forward during a merger, which again is preposterous. But why we are here, folks, okay, is to talk about this open op that came the way of the Wall Street Journal. This, I think, like I said in the beginning, folks, is damning because it's made print. The Wall Street Journal printed this open op. And this opinion is, again, it's an opinion, but it's damning in the fact that we don't know who Lina Khan is actually working for. Is she working for the American people who pay taxes like myself? Or is she working with foreign entities to block mergers like the ABK? Well, according to this Wall Street Journal opinion, it says this, folks. FTC Chair Lina Khan is aiding and abetting foreign governments against United States business interests. That is pretty damning. And considering how she has reacted and from the onset of the ABK deal, where when she first challenged it, she said that Microsoft lied to the EU about what they were going to do with Bethesda in regards to first party. And almost minutes after that was made public, the EU responded and said, well, hold on a sec, folks. They never said that. So she's off her rocker. I will say that, but I'm interested to get your opinion on this. I mean, this is, again, it's an opinion, Riskett, but it's a damning one.
Yeah, look, I've got quite a bit to say on this. So you sort of need to set a bit of context. The reason that she's presenting herself to Congress, I believe is the Energy and Commerce Board, is to get more money. And the reason that they're chasing more money is basically to staff very basically, this is just boiling it down to its most basics, is to staff the FTC with more experts to cover these digital markets, and then to deal with the workload, ever increasing workload, very much thanks to Lina Khan, to litigate these cases. So she's lost 11. Let that sink in. She's lost 11 of her cases. I believe she might have won 2 that she's brought before the courts. Now that's at a cost, and I think this does bring into when they cost this out, it's what they could have won is counted as a loss. And don't quote me on this figure because I don't know if it's 100% correct, but it was around $8 billion. That's a lot of money to lose, and then you're standing in front of Congress asking for more to staff with experts. You need to sort of remove the fact that you think, sort of remove that, and then think about this. If she wasn't litigating these, she obviously has to look at these cases. She has to look at the ABK deal. She has to look at the most recent PlayStation. She has to look at all these deals. And there's lots of other stuff going on that the FTC deals with, like scams, so on and so forth. So there is definitely a case to be made that that they could possibly require more staff and more money. But then I think what the Congress was really hitting hard into was, where are you spending it? And are you spending it efficiently? And I think if you just look at the clear facts, removing ABK, removing the fact that they're wearing, I mean, we're talking about video games here. We'll remove that for 2 seconds. You can tell by 11 losses that she is not spending this money efficiently.
Correct.
And doing,
yes,
and she's lost. Now, to your point on when you were talking about their staff, in 2020, 87% of responding FTC employees agreed that the senior leaders maintain high standards of honesty and integrity. 87% in 2020. Lina was not at the FTC at that point.
correct.
That number fell to 53% in 2021 and 49% in 2022. And I am betting that it's probably going to drop into the 30s, low 30s by the end of 2023.
I agree. Yeah.
Now, when your staff think that of you, you are doing something very wrong. When you have a significant drop like that, that is horrifically bad. Now, we saw that scathing letter that got written by the last exiting Republican. This is supposed to be a bipartisan government agency, and that means that they are not supposed to have bias or let bias seep into the FTC. And if you do that, it sort of removes the purpose of the FTC. And it doesn't make it about competition. It makes it political. And you don't want the FTC to be political. What you want the FTC to do, as an American, I'm not American, but as you guys as Americans, what you want them to do is protect you as consumers. For me personally, now it's reaching internationally, like you were saying. Now she is reaching across to the EU, and there was some discussions had about this in Congress as to why she thinks she has the right to try to steer the EU and steer the CMA,
Yes.
and not be completely honest. And I believe her answer was that this is something that's been going on, and she believes it's good government to share information. So sharing information is one thing. When you try to steer another regulator's investigation by supplying information and not supplying other information, which I suspect is known that she's doing, is not your remit. You're stepping outside, and it's also creating a bias within that government.
Correct.
Now, it's on those regulators themselves in the other countries to acquire the information and make the decision based on that. And hopefully they're not relying on the FTC for too much information. But as Lina Khan herself so succinctly put, and some of the congressmen put, they are world leaders and looked up to and upon when it comes to competition markets. And that's now, and I actually do agree that she probably needs to staff more. But when you're having mass exodus of your staff because of the way that you behave, and not just the way that you behave, the obviously you're creating, no one wants more work created for them. If you knew you were going to lose a case and you were a litigator within the FTC or a lawyer, you wouldn't want to be working on this case. No one would want to work on a hopeless case.
Right.
And she's presented 11 of them. That would be soul destroying if you were working in that environment.
100%.
Not to mention her attitude and the way that she's been sort of carrying on. Look, yeah, I'm pretty tired, as everyone is, of the ABK deal. But I did sit through that 3-hour Congress back and forth, and she got raked, absolutely raked over the coals. I don't see Lina's tenure continuing very far past the Biden administration. If it continues within the Biden administration, I think that he would be a fool if he were to allow her to continue. When it comes to her litigation, I mean, this, from watching that whole thing was stunning to have a look into a bit of an insight into American politics, but it also it was a massive positive for me, because when you get caught doing the things that you're doing, when you refuse to give information to congressmen, I mean, that was happening during, she pretty much had the, and the exact words weren't this, but it was, can we please get a copy of that paperwork? I'll see what I can do. I mean, you're talking to Congress. You're talking to Congress. These people need to know what's going on inside these regulatory bodies. They create the laws that the FTC is supposed to follow, and you won't give them your internal workings. Like, that's a little bit nuts to me. But it's a positive, because what I see at the end of this, and I do hope, after her raking over the coals, in the interest of having her the body funded, I hope she pulls back on the ABK deal. But if she doesn't, I think it's an almost certainty that it goes through. I also think that Congress are going to start looking at the digital market, especially considering that they are in talks with the JFTC and the Japanese government about their digital agreement. And I think once Lina steps out, and we get someone who's probably, I hate to use the word, more competent, that they will start looking into, based on Congress's murmurings, I think the FTC will start looking more at foreign markets, hopefully not Australia's, at foreign markets, and what's happening over there when it comes to the digital markets and when it comes to video gaming specifically. And I think that it can only be a good thing, because I mean, we're not crazy, right? None of us are stupid people that come on Boom Show here, and Boom himself definitely is not either. And we are not crazy. We are not crazy people. And the things that PlayStation have been getting away with can only be considered, not all of them, but some of them, anti-competitive. And
100%, dude. Yeah,
it doesn't take an acquisition for the FTC to be looking into business practices. They don't just look at mergers and acquisitions; they look at scams, and they look at any competitive movements within markets. And they can levy fines, and they can have companies roll back decisions if they believe it's anti-competitive. And I think that this is a great thing. You have to look at this as a positive, because now they're going to start looking at these markets. And that, honestly, all of that I saw at Congress, it was great to see them push back. And all I saw there was only a positive for me. So it gave me a little bit of faith, to be honest, where none sort of existed in the processes before. So for me, an absolute positive. It was good to see.
Yeah, I mean, look, I said this numerous times, and I hadn't had a chance to throw this theory and thought past Dave, who we consider our money guy, because obviously he's in banking, folks. That's what he does. So he understands numbers, dollars and cents. Dave, one of the things that was very interesting and again, I'm not all about government oversight. I just think that they muck it up, and I'd rather them not be involved. And Sony has now taken their complaints and their crying and all that other nonsense that we've called it, and they have turned the spotlight on the gaming industry, where it just ran as it ran, and they made many profits from it with no oversight, because in many cases, some people can suggest Sony's anti-competitive behavior is why they're so in the lead in many places. Upwards of, in Japan, it's 98 to 2%. I mean, it's more than just their first party IP, because we know that their own gamers aren't enough, because Jim Ryan told us so. Right? He told us that their fans aren't enough, and they need to do other things for first party, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what was interesting is, and this is where I think you're going to see next week, the FTC announcement that dropping the lawsuit is going to happen. I don't know that for a fact. It's just my opinion. I could be 1,000% wrong. But both Democratic and Republican representation fought to get the deal approved in Japan. Right? They said that you can't block this deal because Sony has a 98 to 2%, and you're not allowing for our United States companies to have a shot. Well, if they did that, Dave, I think it's safe to assume that they're not interested in blocking the deal here in the States if they're pushing for the deal to be passed in Japan. So I would imagine that that is something that's going to happen next week once the CMA levies their final decision. But getting to the op that the Wall Street Journal posted, I mean, this is pretty damning, dude. Like, it is an accusation, or it's an opinion-based accusation, but it's super damning in my opinion. I mean, obviously she got raked over the coals by Congress. That's the words coming directly from Risk It for the Biscuit, but I agree 1,000%. And I said in a tweet that I thought her not her behavior, because she just answered the questions, but I thought the way she answered the questions were very arrogant. That's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. But for someone to write an open op that she is aiding and abetting foreign governments against the United States business interests is like, whoa. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, she is. She's a piece of work. Lina Khan really is. There was a reason she was put in that position, and and I got to play the soundbite because we absolutely, I don't like the way she's gone about it, the way she's handled herself. It makes us look bad on us, on the U.S., to be honest with you, because she's supposed to be working for the U.S. government, protecting the U.S. people, and seems like she's more worried about the response and things that are going to happen with other countries. And there's a reason why we keep talking about this subject. And I know there's someone in chat that made a comment about why are we still talking about this. It's because it's important. It's extremely important for the gaming industry today. And this is a gaming channel talking about gaming. And I don't want to step on your toes or anything, Boom, but it kind of upsets me when somebody will make comments about why are you still covering this? Why are you doing this? Because it's relevant to the gaming industry today. Not just Microsoft, but this is going to have ramifications on all gaming, and also the current and also the newest, the ways of marketing and the things in the future that are coming for gaming, such as the streaming gaming and cloud gaming.
Yes,
those are markets that are just now really starting to evolve, and as they get more and more. The quality of internet worldwide becomes more, better quality. I should say. I'm sorry. I'm kind of my mind's all over the place on this.
No, that's all right. No, we know exactly what you're talking about, Dave.
But it's important now because it's gonna matter eventually. Even if you say, I don't have good internet here, eventually you probably will. And there's a lot of countries that don't even have internet still to this day that are starting to get that. And that's why Microsoft is pushing the boundaries and pushing the market in all the right directions. And, there is no legal grounds to stop the deal, period. Right. And she was blatantly called out on it. There was some of those interactions back and forth between the senators and Lina Khan, and her answers were vague or dismissive. And one of the senators, I can't think of her name, I said, well, we're going to get a copy of those documents, right? And Lina was just basically, like, oh, well, we'll have the office see what we can come up with. And she's like, no, we'll get those documents because it's required. If Congress asks for them, they have to provide them because it's a state agency that the Congress has the oversight over. And she doesn't want to be in contempt of Congress because her career will instantly be over if that happens. So I know she's all arrogant and all thinking she's doing the right thing. But it's not going to go well for her when this is all said and done. But my main point on this Lina Khan, is a topic that keeps coming up because she keeps interjecting herself into this process, and she keeps trying to stop the process that clearly every other country, every other, I guess, market should say, has already almost all of them have passed it. And not only that, but without concessions, because they see what exactly Microsoft is doing, and they don't see any problem with the way this deal is going to go through. So for somebody in the chat to say, we don't want to watch this. Well,
I have a comment on that. I have
I'll
a
let
comment
you,
on it.
I'll let you
Yeah,
talk about
I
that.
have a comment on that. I'm not going to specifically say who it is because I don't want anybody going after anyone. I'm a grown adult. I'm going to be 53, folks. I'm too old for this shit. So I'm going to say this. The comment is basically, this is why you're losing subs. You keep beating a dead horse. We get it. You hate Lina Khan. We don't need to listen to you trash her for 2 hours a day, nearly every freaking day. It's annoying. Now, here's the thing. Let me just say this. If you are somehow punishing yourself by listening to my shows, that is the inherent problem right there. You don't need to listen. You don't need to be subbed. I appreciate that you listen to the show. I don't go out of my way to trash. I use actual arguments that are relevant to the conversation. If you are, upset that Lina Khan is being, criticized, then maybe you should reach out to her and say, be better. I go out of my way and I work super ridiculously hard. You know how hard it is to stream 5 days a week, Monday through Friday? It's significant. It's significantly difficult. I'll tell you that. Now, I want to do that because I love gaming. But if you think I'm not going to talk about it because your feelings are hurt, then you are sadly mistaken and you are listening to the wrong podcaster. Again, I'm not going to say who it is. They've been a long time listener. And if this is how you feel, step off. Don't listen. Unsub. Every time I go live, you should make it your business to hit the thumbs down button. You should make it your life to hit the thumbs down button because you hate what I'm about. I have always subscribed to the fact that this channel is dedicated to positivity, but I'm not going to not talk about a situation because it's negative. Sometimes you have to. Yes, this is a gaming show. Yes, this is a gaming channel. But this is a relevant, extremely relevant conversation. And what she is doing is illegal. Yep. And coming from a law background, I'm not going to stand for it and not say anything. It's my right to say something. So again, if you are bothered, step off and don't listen to the show.
Here's the other part. You've also said that you like her the fact of
her ideology.
Her ideology. You've said that. So how is it one way? And that's the funny thing is people only listen and hear what they want to hear. But you're criticizing for something that she's doing, but you like the ideology of what she's trying to do. And you said she's doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we're going to get misinterpretations from people that are not fully listening to what the message is. That's not what the message is that you hate her or this and that. You're not trying to bash her. You're trying to bash what she's doing. And that's we need to have people listen. This is the whole point of what we do is a topic of discussion. We discuss things. We debate
like
things.
Adults. Like
exactly.
Adults. Yes.
And when you got to bring on the heat, you bring on the heat. And sometimes, you learn something. And also, as the news happens, we learn more information, which allows you to change your opinion. So sometimes people have to back off a little bit and think about what they're saying. And then, oh, okay, well, now I have more information. I can actually change my opinion. And that's the thing is yet again, people need to listen in the chat. What is being said? This is relevant news regardless. Like Web Dave said earlier, this is important. This is stuff that matters because the outcome will change the future. And, so we have to see what happens. And that's part of the discussion. So sorry about butting in, but
No. Well, first of all, thanks so much for joining us, brother. We definitely appreciate
to
it.
get out of work and get here as fast as I could to jump.
No, we're gonna get your hot take on this. Let me. And again, I apologize for the small rant. Like I said, folks, I take a lot of criticism, and some of the messages I get on a daily basis, they're very, very insulting. Now, I don't get a lot of them, but it hurts, folks, because I wholeheartedly do these shows because I love the community and I love gaming. And when you have someone try to skew what you're doing as as rhetoric for hate, we don't do hate on this channel. We talk about situations in adult manner conversations. Now, if that pisses you off, like I said, I appreciate every sub. Every sub matters to me. Every super chat it matters because we're not owed anything. Every channel membership is extremely welcomed and appreciated. But I am not going to be browbeaten on my own show by someone that's defended. Grow up, just grow up. And again, if you don't like the conversation, you definitely don't got to listen. I think I bring enough positivity to this community to every now and again when something I don't like is making the rounds and potentially is going to hurt me as a consumer, because I do this because I want Game Pass to have more content. That's why I care. I don't care Microsoft makes money. They're not giving me anything. But let's
boom. One
yes,
thing
sir.
just last little thing I want to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
About today's show, for example, talk about when we started talking about the ABK and we talking about Lina Khan, it was a relevant topic, and it's not the only topic we've talked about. We
actually talked about games
today, and we have more things to talk about. So, I mean, you can't just accompany us. This whole show has been that is not true. It's factually inaccurate. This show is one of the best shows because you cover everything, good or bad, all parts, and not just Xbox. Even though we favor the Xbox brand, you have great people on. You have some amazing talent on. You have people that represent the Sony community, Nintendo, all different types of people come on your show. Why? Because they know they're going to get a fair shake and a fair mic.
Thank you, sir.
And it's appreciated from all of us. And I know maybe this person was just, I get it. If you're tired of the deal, I get it. But some of the comments they made along with it were totally unnecessary. And like you said, if you don't like it or if you're having a bad day, I'm sorry. Just tune into something else.
I agree.
I'm going to throw out there that I'm tired of the deal. Like, absolutely. I mean, as podcasters, I don't think there's a podcasters, but when something breaks or something new happens, it's interesting. If it's in gaming, then it's interesting to talk about. Now, I sort of stepped a little bit outside of gaming because it was interesting for me to watch that all sort of go down. And look, Lina Khan, I don't know if it's just because of her, but the function of the FTC is an amazing function. It's something that we need to have. And they've done some really good things this year. And I'm after watching the entire thing, I think if you were being a console sort of fanboy, you could say, well, I don't think that they deserve the money because they did a bad job. I don't think that. I think they need to do more, and I think that they probably should get the money. It's a bit concerning that maybe because of the way that she's led her team, she won't get that money, because when it comes to digital safety, digital privacy, and all these things that we're all at risk from, I myself have had my bank account hacked. That's happened. And when that sort of stuff happens, you want to be able to get your money back. And there was a time before these things were regulated or had come up in front of our regulatory boards where you wouldn't get that money back. That was your own problem. But now we do. So there's lots of the FTC. It's not something that we're bashing. It's a specific ideology that has skewed the regulatory body to more of a partisan as opposed to a bipartisan operation. And that's just, you got to call that out, man. And I'm sorry, the person who was really upset about it, but if it's wrong and it's in gaming and we're on a podcast talking about gaming, we're going to call it out. Sorry.
Listen, I took it on the chin earlier last week for coming out against Microsoft and what I believe to be a subpar 30 frames per second for Redfall, a major first party IP. We lost about 20 plus subs, but was it worth it? In my opinion, yes. Now, I don't like losing subs, but I think what that proves, and what it should prove anyway, is that I'm here to talk about gaming. And when a company misses, they got to be told about themselves. You got to let them know that it's unacceptable. So if I'm going to lose subs because I'm talking about a very relevant situation that happened just yesterday, then I'll just lose the subs, because I think you folks tune in for honesty and integrity, which is what this show and what this channel is built on. Honestly, if you're doing it any other way, we've seen hate get a lot of subs. MBG's a perfect example. Someone mentioned him in the chat. He was an Xbox guy many years ago. I actually tried to get him on the show, and he was like, he didn't diss me or anything. He just does his own thing, and that's fine. Do your own thing, MBG. And he saw that hate-driven content was profitable, and he is near 100,000 subscribers later. I would rather be at the 12 I am and give you honesty and integrity than to use hate-driven content. That's just how I do. So I'm doing it the grassroots way, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of patience, because you don't always hit, and you lose subs. Sometimes you lose more subs in a week than you gain. That happens. That sucks, but it happens. But I would rather lose subs for being honest and having integrity be a vital part of the show. The fact that I even have to say this publicly out loud and stop the show is ridiculous, but I had to address it. So thank you, everybody on the panel and everybody in the chat that came to my defense. I appreciate it, but this is just one person's opinion. And if that, in fact, is the case, then so be it. It's okay. Have your opinion. Unsub. Hit the thumbs down button. That's the best thing I can tell you. Go out of your way to give me negative reviews. No. I mean, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel.
See, here's Boom. I didn't come to your defense. I came to Logic's defense.
Logic, yes.
You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. Logic is much more important than me. I agree. Listen, let's get Fuzzy's take on this. Fuzzy, there's a lot to be said. Obviously, keep it brief in regards to how we're gonna post this. I think that Lina Khan is finished in her position. I think her stubbornness is on display once again. For the Wall Street Journal to authorize this kind of open opinion and have it actually be in print, it's pretty damning, dude. And the confidence of Congress and the American people for her, since she has been given that position, it's blatantly out there. Talk about it.
For me, I think the biggest thing is when the senators and stuff were interviewing her, or not really interviewing her, but questioning her in reference to different documents and such, and some of the expenditures as far as these advisors and whatnot. It seemed like there was a disconnect. Like I get it. When you're in charge of something, you have your set plan or how you want to go about doing things, but when the people that sign the checks for your endeavors don't seem to be getting the responses that they're expecting, and you kind of still throw this attitude or arrogance to some extent back at them, it's only going to come back to bite you in the long term. And we kind of all saw that this was not necessarily her best stand as far as a fight. Like, I get it. She's looking out for consumers against big tech and whatnot. And that's great. But in this regard, I don't think this was the best, hill to kind of die on type of thing. But we'll see how it goes after CMA and the EU approve. Hopefully next week we get some word on that. And then from there, if Microsoft decides to close over top of the FTC, so be it. If they decide to wait, I think it would be a bit of a lost opportunity. But Lina Khan has made her bed, and she's going to have to lie in it. And whatever political or future judiciary career goals she had, I think might be for naught at this point now. So it is what it is. But best of luck to her in her future endeavors. But I don't foresee her holding that chair, much longer with it, even with this same administration. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I just want the deal done so we can talk about something else. I
Yeah.
really am tired of the deal. And again, it's the fact it's just relevant, and we're gonna talk about it until it's done. And when it's done, we'll all celebrate and we'll move on to whatever we think is going to be coming in, because it's going to be a big expose, a big sit down one-on-one with everyone from Activision Blizzard King. Talk about the future of what that looks like for Xbox and Xbox gamers. And then we'll have some other stuff to talk about. For me personally, and again, this is just me being a big nerd, I'm most excited about Toys for Bob because obviously, I'm a platformer dude, and I really want to see a kart racer come out, and I think they can do it, or at least a Banjo-Kazooie game, which I think they would be awesome at. But listen, let's get Dreadpool's final take on this. We'll get everyone out of here so you can start your amazing weekend wherever you are. Dreadpool, let's get your final take on this open op that was put out there. Like I said, I think it's damning. The fact that this is made print is even more so. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, well, we've already established all this. But yeah, it just, the whole, let's see, the way that she answered everything, the way that, you want people to be cocky. You want people to know and back up what they're talking about, but the defensiveness and the pushing the answers to the side without actually truly answering anything, and then on top of that, what the answers are misleading / false. She contradicted herself with what she said. It's already been shown out there. It's just not a good image. It's not a good look. It doesn't help. And unfortunately, it's not, we already know that she's trying to justify her cause. And we've already called it out several times. I don't know how much more we could talk about that part, but it's just, she needs to be held accountable, and that's part of the thing that at least now we're seeing it. And hopefully this won't change her ideology, but change her tactic and be for the people. That's really what they're there for, is to protect us. And we'll see what happens. I mean, again, this is news in the making. So we'll,
Indeed.
Whatever the outcome happens, I don't think she's going to, because she was appointed in, I don't think they'll be able to easily remove her. But I do think that she needs to be accountable for everything that they've brought against her. All those emails that she's never answered, she needs to be accountable for that.
Yeah.
There needs to be, again, accountability everywhere. Doesn't matter what side of the politics you're on. It doesn't matter any of that stuff. This is supposed to be for the people, again, not for, I don't know, pushing myself up into another better position in politics. And that's what we called it out before, that this is what it seems like, is she's trying to make moves to maneuver herself. And, it's just not a good look. And it, unfortunately for the US market, it makes the rest of us look bad too.
I absolutely agree. It's comical at this point.
Right.
It's certainly comical, especially when you consider how dominant Sony has been in the market, and obviously, in the U.S. it's a little closer. I believe the number was 68.1% they hold the market, which is still nearly 70%, but around the world it's well over 70. Like I said, I take nothing away from Sony. Sony is in first place because they put out some great games. They marketed, their marketing is the best in the business. If you want to achieve what they have achieved, you need to copy their marketing. Go copy their homework, Microsoft. Do what they're doing. I'm not saying, box out everyone in regards to marketing deals. I'm saying, look how they market their first party stuff. and
she-
and the third party stuff.
Yeah, and they need to open their eyes too, and she even said, we open to other competitors to to put their points out there also, and she's like, we welcome everybody's opinion and facts based on all this. Okay, well, that's great, but it doesn't seem like it did.
Yeah, she what the FTC apparently did, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Dre. It looked like they copied their homework.
They did.
And literally their complaint read exactly like Sony's complaint, which is not the way you're supposed to do your business.
Yeah, she's the jock that went to the smart kid and said, "Hey, I'm going to put you in this locker, and if you don't finish my project for me, I will put you in this locker again for the rest of the week."
Yeah,
and that's what it seems like. And Sony said, this is what's going to happen, and she's like, you know what? Yeah, okay, sure, no problem. We'll do this. It doesn't seem like she said, okay, well, we'll take that under consideration. Is there anybody else and equally have everybody's objections or approvals
or
equally
concerns
across the board? Yeah, concerns, any of that stuff across the board, and we will look at it and base on what we find. No, it was only one person, and
the market leader.
Yeah, the market leader saying, "Hey, this is going to kill us," and it's like, no, you're killing yourself.
Ridiculous. So ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfectly reasonable for them to take those concerns seriously at the outset, without knowledge of the subject matter, which is
exactly
yes,
and without any knowledge of the subject matter at all. Those complaints seem like they are serious complaints, possibilities. But when you lift the curtain, and you look behind what's behind the curtain, you can you see that the things that are being complained about are being done not by Microsoft but by Sony.
Yeah.
And really what if they do this? Oh wait, you've already done this.
Done that. Yeah. It really doesn't take much investigation. And it shouldn't have taken much investigation for them to find out. And obviously, they're not experts on the subject matter. And I would consider everyone on the chat and everyone here today is an expert on the subject matter, because gaming is what we love and do. So we see what happens, and we know what happens in the industry, because that's what interests us. So I could understand at the outset, but we're well past that point. I mean, it took the CMA, it took the EU a little while to come around, but they, after a little bit of
they were educated. That's what happened. They were educated into the market practices, and once they had the documents, they had the evidence, they were educated into what exactly is happening. They were like, yeah, you know what? After it's all said and done, you are correct. There is not going to be any market harm, considering the prowess that is Sony in that region of the world specifically. They are the dominant platform in the UK and in the EU, just by some of the numbers that have come out. 400%.
Exactly that. And the thing, one of the things that came up, one of the congressmen, and I forget his name, and I think it's what this Wall Street Journal article was based on, is that he is effectively, if she blocks this deal, she is opening the door for Chinese investors and for Eastern investors. And I mean, look, there's a bit of a danger in that, considering the way that I don't want to get too much into, but there's a danger in that. And we've seen what they've done to gaming in their market. We've seen how they operate, bringing Activision. Activision's no longer there. They don't have World of Warcraft, and they've had a significant amount of players there, just simply because they're not aligned with a Chinese company. That it comes with all these caveats that aren't good for business. And I think, especially when you consider all the details, all the information, and you have a look at it, and you see what Sony's doing, you see that they're the market leader, and you see that this will create competition. Realistically, that Wall Street Journal is probably a little bit more than opinion. It's probably a little bit closer to the facts, to be honest. I understand it is an opinion, but it's pretty close to the facts, and it's definitely a danger having Eastern companies that don't particularly share the philosophies of Western society, and what effect will that have on gaming? So it's a bit of a worry for me, but I'm glad, like I said, the whole thing was a positive in the end. Congress is calling them out. It seems like CMA, the EU, everyone around the world is going to pass this. I expect New Zealand to pass it in the next couple of days.
Yep.
I really don't see this deal getting stuck over any hitches. And as you said, Fuzzy, Microsoft have already pretty much said if they get the go ahead of the CMA and the EU,
They're going to close
they will
over
close over the top of the
Yeah.
FTC. So,
Yeah.
and we know that that's not going to hold up in court. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be celebrations. And if that does happen, boom, we're going to get Diablo 4.
Yeah, dude, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us today. Obviously, we had a great conversation. Again, sorry for the small rant, but when people call me out, you're gonna get my smoke. I'm sorry. I just, if you're gonna challenge me publicly, you're not gonna DM me like a proper person. Hey, boom, I appreciate the work, but could you maybe consider? That's fine. You want to have a conversation, but to call me out, that's I'm not gonna stand for it, folks. I'm a gentleman. I am through and through, but I am not going to be called out on my own show. I refuse to have that happen.
I mean, if there's a reasonable call out, do it. But this
of course. If I'm acting like a fool, tell me about myself. I'd be more than happy to agree with you. You know what? You were right for calling me out, but that was inappropriate, at least in my opinion.
Super chats, Boom.
Yeah, I'm going to get to the super chats right now. Mike Clark, who generous friend of the program, just a $5 super chat and says, "Hi-Fi Rush sales is what I like to call the Game Pass effect. Game Pass conditions people to not want to buy games. Love the show and the community." I mean, you might be onto something, but to be fair, it is a smaller game. It was $40. It was shadow dropped. It wasn't expected. And as a matter of fact, there's been an update to, I guess Jeff Grubb got a call from Microsoft because he updated his commentary on what he exactly said and what he meant. And Aaron Greenberg actually came out and responded to that. We're not going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about it on Monday. So tune in 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have two monster guests joining us in Ham Solo and Ecstasies one from he's a Spanish YouTuber that is amazing. And he has well over 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. He is what I would consider an insider. He gets a lot of info. And both of those gentlemen are going to be joining us on Monday afternoon's new episode of the of the Xbox lunch break special. Dan the Man Cunningham, another generous friend of the program. Dan, how the heck are you, brother? Thank you for the $5 super chat. And he says, "For Lina Khan to turn such a blind eye to American affairs, she has to have taken Sony money. I'm sure she can afford to retire on it." I hope there is no shenanigans like that. I doubt it because I'd like to give her the benefit of the doubt. She's a well educated woman. I mean, she has the chops. She's just doing it the wrong way. Highlander 001 drops an additional $2 super chat and says, "I am here for Boom's honesty and no BS chat." That's very kind of you to say, dude. I hope that's how it comes off. I really, really do. If it came off any other way, I'd be embarrassed of myself, and I'd be a terrible host and showrunner if you didn't come to the show and expect integrity and honesty. Then I would have failed. Dreadful Sean, who's been a channel member for 2 months, drops an additional $10 super chat. And just Sean, thank you for the generosity, brother. He says, "One of the reasons why I listen every day is because of the variety of topics and opinions that you offer. Listening to Skullsy talk about his game was awesome." Yeah, if you missed that, Skullsy TV YouTuber is so into the Bethesda lore that he is now a developer, and he talked about his new game. It has not really been announced for any platforms outside of PC, but we talked about it for 25 minutes, and it's from former developers of the OG team of some of your favorite Bethesda RPGs, and they're making a new AAA game. And he talked about it. We got permission from the actual developer for him to get on with me for 70 minutes yesterday and talk about it. It was pretty awesome. If you missed that, go check that out. Thank you for the nice comments, brother, and thank you for the generosity. Gamer by Choice, who's been a channel member for over 2 years. Thank you for that. He drops a $5 super chat and says, "The only way ABK kills Sony is if they don't adapt up to market changes. I do see Sony's disadvantage in 10 years if services become standard in gaming. Sony is going to eventually adopt a Game Pass-esque way of doing it with their first party. It may not be happening in 23 or 24 or maybe even 25, but Microsoft's blueprint for gaming on having the subscription being more important than the one sale is going to be the standard. They have changed the market. They don't need you to buy the $160 game. They would rather you and four of your friends subscribe to $25 a month for Xbox Game Pass Friends and Family, and then have that equate a standard monthly, pile of money coming in, rather than you just buying the one game one time and then selling it to GameStop. They don't want the one sale. That's the Sony ideology. It's old. They have to change. They have to move with the times. Here he is, my good friend, my good brother, the Black Harry Potter in the chat. I love you, brother. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. And he says, I just wanted to show my support, Mr. Boom. But I guess it's before it's over. Yeah, before it's over. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Forget the haters, and Hogwarts Legacy still game of the year. Have a great day, fellas. Thank you, brother. It is still my game of the year. I have to finish it. It's just too many games, not enough time. And next week is Jedi. Oh my God, the new Star Wars game. Where am I going to have the time, folks? I have no idea. But listen, thank you so much for coming out and supporting the channel. Risk it, brother. Talk about your show this evening with Umbra and Doom Cutie and Jedi Peter. And you got a special guest with you tonight. The one, the only, Special Nick, which, by the way, I didn't even mention. I'm going to be a very special guest on this Saturday's Xbox Era with Special Nick and John. And I can't wait to be a part of that. I haven't been on the show, I think, in about a year. So we're going to be sitting down tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to hang out with those two fine gents. Talk about your channel, brother, and sell it. Sell your brand, risk it.
Absolutely, yeah. We normally go live at around about 8 p.m. EST every Friday, but tomorrow, so that Nick can have breakfast, we're going live at 9.
Okay.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a great show. Unfortunately, I will say Pete is probably not going to be able to make it. He's had a bit of a medical emergency with family.
Wow.
So we won't have Jedi Pete. We'll be bringing back Garuda Intruder. He is an awesome friend of the show. But guys, head over there and check it out. We're going to have a great time. You better believe we're going to talk about this Lina Khan stuff. So if you don't like that, don't come. Yeah, but it's going to be a great show. I've been talking to Nick in the background for quite some time. One other thing that I just do want to definitely call out, especially if the shooter, you're still there in the chat. It is Anzac Day. It is Anzac Day on the 25th for us. And that is where we remember our fallen and show respect to our armed forces and all those who serve. So we probably won't be able to do anything on the show this week because I am at work, but I'll be able to do something on the show for the following week, which is close to the 25th. But yeah, it's going to be an absolutely amazing show. I cannot wait to speak to Nick. He's a Collingwood supporter. I'm an Eagles supporter. It's going to be do or die, mortal enemies. But it's going to be a great show. So guys, head over there, check it out. I'm pretty sure I'll be linked in the description, but if not, I'll drop a link in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do that. And again, thank you so much for joining us, brother. Great stuff as always. Love what you guys and gals do on your show. And I'm still waiting for litigation to come through about Infinite Umbra, the Xbox Infinite podcast, whether or not you're going to continue to take him to court for that name. And obviously, Umbra launched his show 2 weeks ago called The Fix on Thursdays with Daniel J. McGee. Definitely go check out that show. It's phenomenal. Did two episodes in. Go subscribe to Umbra's The Fix. The Web Dave, speaking of subscribing, we got to get you to 1K, brother. And you do it best. His one-on-one interviews, folks, are legendary. He has interviewed basically just about everybody, including myself. I think it might have been his first or second interview.
You
were the first.
There you go, folks. So you never forget your first, right? That's what they say. Dave, listen, talk about your podcast that you have on Sundays with Retri from Game Pass _daily, and more importantly, what and where people can subscribe to get some of these great, unbelievable one-on-one conversations.
Thank you so much, Boom. I really appreciate that. I just got to say that the show this week with Redtree, the Gamers Council, which everybody can participate in. We don't do super chats. You can actually even leave a recorded message. The links are in the description. I've also put the link here where you can subscribe to our channel. Please do so. This week's special guest on Sunday is the one and only
The man with the million.
Randall Thor 19 will be
What a nice
our
get,
special
bro.
guest.
Excellent.
I know, and he is there to talk about everything gaming, and we're gonna have an absolute blast. Rand is my God, he's awesome, and it's like I said, we feel very privileged to have everybody that we do have come on the show. Last week we had Kay Asante, who just absolutely knocked it out of the park. So anyway, join us. We'd love that. The one last thing I will say is that that there's a show coming out on Saturday that Boom is a part of.
Yes.
And that would be the Wandering Duchess special presentation
That's
for
right.
the indies, and you are a part of that. So tell everybody about
Yes.
that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, listen, folks. In between some of the podcasts that are going to be out on Saturday, Wandering Dutch is doing his yearly indie showcase. It's the Indie Showcase 2023 with a lot of surprises. There are going to be over 85 games shown at this event, which is amazing. Again, some big surprises in there that I'm privy to that I will not, tell the tale until you see it for yourself. Yeah, definitely get over there to the Wandering Dutch on both on YouTube and on Twitter and follow him so you can check this out. The Indie Showcase is not just dedicated to Xbox, it is dedicated to all platforms, and it's actually only the first. Usually he does one per year. He's doing one in the fall as well. So get out there and I've been a part of it since its inception. I give my top, I think it's my top 10 or 9 indies that I'm most excited for. But definitely go check that out on the Wandering Dutch. Thank you so much for that, Dave. Fuzzy Belvedere, brother, sell your brand. Talk about the best place for everything and anything in the racing genre, and more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Oh, just want to thank you for having me on. Awesome being on here with you guys and interacting with everybody in the chat. Always awesome to be on a podcast with Risk It. Thank you for joining us this fine morning. And for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere. After this podcast, if you're into Forza, definitely check out Forza Monthly that's going on right now. And I will more than likely be talking about the upcoming motorsport here more and more as we get closer to hopefully an announced release date. But, man, thank you so much for your time and everything. And man, great time to be a gamer. And hopefully soon this ABK deal closes and we get the Xbox showcase that we all want and hope for. So.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that
links are in the description too. We just dropped those in.
Yes, thank you, brothers. That's super appreciate that. We're definitely going to be talking about what expected. Tim Dog put a tweet out there that I thought was very, very interesting. Tim Dog knows his stuff. The guy is well connected, so maybe it's a hint as to what we can expect from June. Again, we're going to talk about that on Monday. And last and no way least, Dreadpool. First of all, brother, I know you got in here late, but thank you so much for being a part of today's show. You can find Dreadpool at linktree.com/Dreadpool, youtube.com/Dreadpool, Twitter at Dreadpool, at least while Twitter is still around because, man, it's really going down the shooter. TikTok at Dreadpool, hover.gg at Dreadpool. You can also find him not only on Gaming Beyond the Box with Wilmy Hood and that great group of I would say crazy gamers, because some of the stuff that comes out of their mouths are shocking, but they're always a lot of fun to listen to, as well as finding him on here Friday mornings on Breakfast with Boom. Talk about it, Dreadpool.
Yes, thank you for everyone that showed up in chat today. It's all about discussion. It's all about having a good time. Don't worry about the trolls. They're not pulling us out of the conversation. Boom just had to speak up for himself. It just sometimes we got to do that, but we appreciate you guys for sticking around. Again, with me and work, it is what it is. But I got here as soon as I can because I love you
Appreciate
guys,
that.
and I want to make sure I can, greet every single one of you as I always do. And look out for my shorts that I have coming out.
Yes.
I have one every day now, about noon, and I'm trying to double up a few more before the end of the month. What else? There was I did the unboxing for the 1X2 and the Insta 360 Flow. I'm sorry, the Insta Flow. So that'll be really cool stuff for me to use in my future stuff that I'm going out to. I did go to Tampa Bay Screams, so there's stuff out there. I mean, I'm getting as much content as I can, and I'm working on fine-tuning them for you so that way it's more entertaining. But I appreciate every single one of you guys for stopping in and supporting myself, Risk It, Fuzzy, Web Dave, and Boom himself. But we got to get Web Dave. He's the next one that needs to get to
we
that
got to get him to
1,000.
1K. Absolutely.
I mean, you've seen his repertoire of his portfolio of interviews he's done. I mean, come on now.
Yeah. Good stuff. Really, really great stuff, to be honest with you. So we're gonna work on that. And obviously the goal is to get to everybody that's content created to 1K, because it is a really big deal. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to say a big thank you to all the super chats. Lots of them came in today, and I can't thank you enough for the generosity. Of course, we had over 500 people here on a Friday morning. That's a really big deal for a small channel, and we appreciate you taking the time to hang out with Risk It, Dreadpool, Fuzzy, Web Dave. Of course, I'm Mr. BoomStick XL, and I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day, folks, it'll be important to you, and that's something that my dad taught me when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated, and it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. Have an amazing weekend. Enjoy gaming on whatever platform that brings you joy, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.